This is a Lama from Tibet, you know, and he was sentenced to death. That's for you guys, whoever wants it.
What little I can remember, it seems my father, who was Kagyuba Lama, seems to have had a premonition, one of his own early death, and two of an impending national tragedy. And he was insistent that he bring the family out before either of them happened. And in fact, he died within months of our arrival in India, after we had done some of the pilgrimage. And just before we reached the holy lake across from here, Revolsar, he died in Mandi. And as a Lama, he was cremated by the lakes of, by the banks of the Revolsar lake.
My name is Tenzin Delek. I'm a writer and an activist for Free Tibet. For the past 45 years, China has maintained its illegal occupation on Tibet, and they have tested the Tibetans' patience for a very long time. We are born in exile, some of us. But for us, our heart is there in Tibet.
It was an article in the Reader's Digest in 1968 where George Patterson had used his former connections with Khampa chieftains, where he had, in eastern Tibet, he had worked as a missionary and knew some of the leaders of the Tibetan resistance. He used his connection to have a Tibetan resistance team move into Tibet and filmed an actual ambush of a Chinese convoy. I read an article about this in 1968 when I was in school. And what occurred to me at the time was, well, these are the very people who were resisting the Chinese through the mid-50s, and the ones who escorted His Holiness into safety. And they're growing old, others are dying. And I had no knowledge of others being recruited. And it was at that point I decided that I would join the resistance, and which is what I did. After school, I did rather well in school, and my sponsors, who were from America, offered me a scholarship to study medicine in the United States. I refused on the grounds that I would use my life to continue the struggle for freedom.
And we are finding it really difficult in exile to hold on with a small hope. With the world talking peace, nonviolence, harmony, but nobody supporting the Tibetan freedom movement. When they know, and when historically Tibet had been proved independent.
Unfortunately, the Tibetan armed resistance came to an end in early 1974 through direct orders of the Dalai Lama, where there was a confrontation with the Nepalese authorities. and His Holiness intervened to send a taped message calling on the Tibetan resistance to surrender.
And to continue the struggle with the youngsters who are born in India and all over the world who have not seen Tibet, but suffering the angs of living in exile and having the dream that they will go back to Tibet one day. We are finding the struggle really difficult. And at the moment when Tulku Tenzin Delek and many of these leaders are in Chinese custody without fair trial, China is really testing our patience.
And then Penchinamuche, now he's 15. Nobody has seen him. How he looks like, he was taken away as a child of 6 years old. All these years, nobody has seen him. We are not sure whether he's still alive or not. If he is alive, how he has been raised up? Did he get the kind of education that he should be getting? He could be educated to grow up to believe, that His Holiness is the splittist or separatist or whatever.
I then returned to Dharamsala and have served in various capacities, prominently as principal of the Tibetan Children's Village, later as president of the Tibetan Youth Congress. However, after His Holiness announced what is now known as the middle way policy to seek autonomy within China rather than to struggle for freedom, I then decided I can no longer serve the government.
The last hope of non-violence and peace is the Tibetans, and if they lose it for the world.
Teni nga ndana landua ta nga pain roya mere ya jamu ko teni nga pe shibo ko teni zombele le chadwa chazurela nga pain ro sa men ndana ndudi le teni paini to ko tenzo gele ko pai ya teni ko jo ndana mo bo le ga de teni ama de kuji hobi na teni ndana le shege ga na teni chadwa jero mo so koso ko tshiena no koso yolo belro gere teni jamo ko seje dere zenkono juare teni koso she pegu mandu teni koso ko simo cholo she ayo teni hoki shadjala chadro jero ze teni ngan rati je
whosoever raises voices against Chinese, claiming the freedom of Tibet, they have been arrested, they disappear, they have been tortured in the prison.
The Chinese government or the authorities are always, looking out for people who have influence over, a large section of the Tibetan people, influential people, and the target has always been religious heads, religious leaders.
That's how Tulku Tenzin Delek was arrested, from my point of view, because he is becoming more and more popular in his county, and people respect him not only from Tibetan, also from Chinese people. They respect him as religious, and he is growing in influence not only in Tibetan, also in Chinese people. So that is the reason they arrested and blame him as a terrorist.
Teni chije ne teni shirezi teni shavo zo ke tera zo manande tanda zo re pe khoso gago man deuje ma sa jeko ko chije macho no macho ze nan ri re chi ma je ndu do ja ji she khoso no lo tanda ko du po zo zombe le cha do je khoso chili ta pa rumi yo ze teni tanda ko teni kejo tanda je teni ze shu zo ta ta bito no lo teni kana yino ti shu re je chi je ndo za the Kosolno Tendaka Tenzagel, Chia, Katini Senkono, Tamaset, or Joker. She was the Kosoko, the Jamaka share than a Jadi Chuchu, Lea to share in the Tepagamutu, the Nimicha Totos.
By the time they come out of the prison, they are not good for anything anymore. And also they do not get their jobs back. And whoever tries to employ them, the employer will be in trouble. And then they set them as examples to other Tibetans, saying that if you raise voices against the Chinese government, then this is what will happen. Now these are just as good as dead bodies, you know.